Let's play some
Fearful of the growing
chess.
Hebrew population, has decreed death for every newborn Hebrew boy. Enter a Levite woman who has just given birth to a son. For 3 desperate months she hides him, but when concealment becomes impossible, she makes a fateful decision. She took a wicker basket, daubed it with bitumen and pitch, put the child into it, and placed it among the reeds by the bank of the Nile. Biblical scholar William states the Hebrew word for this basket, tevah, appears only twice in the Bible.
Don't even think about it, you fucking slut.
Both are vessels of salvation through dangerous water.
Street
the
whore.
baby's sister, later identified as Miriam, watches from a distance.
Crush your fuck.
What will happen? Fate intervenes in the form of Pharaoh's daughter, coming to bathe in the Nile. She spots the unusual sight, a carefully sealed basket among the rushes. She took pity on him and said, "This must be one of the Hebrews' children." Seizing the moment, Miriam steps forward with an audacious proposal. She knows a Hebrew woman.
Fuck, start the goddamn game, you goddamn son of a goddamn
In an
bitch.
exquisite twist of irony,
God
Moses'
damn it.
own mother is hired as his wet nurse. She gets paid to raise the very child she sought to save. When the boy grows older, he is brought to Pharaoh's daughter.
Now fuck up and move that right out here.
She names him Moses.
Crushed her fuck.
Because I drew him out of the water. Professor Christine Hayes observes the rescue of Moses, who will foil Pharaoh, is effected by the daughter of that
Now fuck
Pharaoh.
up and move
The
that
ultimate
goddamn
savior
phone
of
out,
the
you son
Hebrews
of a
is
bitch.
nurtured under the very roof
Crushed
of
her
their oppressor.
fuck.
Scholar
Crushed her
Frank
fuck.
Kinski points out a powerful
That's what I said, bitch. Goddamn.
Pharaoh's fatal mistake was to take no heed of daughters,
Crushed her
while
fuck.
fixated on Hebrew sons as threats. It was women who subverted his plans at every turn. The
That's what I said,
establishes Moses as a
Crushed
child
her
of dual
goddamn
heritage,
fuck.
biologically Hebrew,
Crushed her
socially
fuck.
Egyptian, setting up the identity struggle that will define his life, saved through
Crushed her
water,
fuck.
later saved
Crushed her
others through
fuck.
water, the Red Sea. But this compelling narrative bears striking resemblance to an older legend from Mesopotamia, the story of a great king who also began life in a pitch-sealed basket on a river. Long before Moses floated on the Nile, another infant survived a similar journey on the Euphrates River. His story comes to us from a 7th century BCE tablet describing events nearly 1,700 years earlier. Sargon, founder of the Akkadian Empire, describes his own birth in a mythic autobiography. Sargon, king of the god am I. My mother was an priestess. My father I knew not. My mother conceived me in secret. She bore me in concealment. She set me in a basket of rushes, sealed the lid with bitumen. She cast me into the river, which did not rise over me. The river bore me up and carried me to the water draws.
Stupid
Sargon's mother is not fleeing genocide. As a temple virgin, she has broken her vow of celibacy. Her pregnancy is a scandal. Like death. The humble laborer Akid discovers the infant and makes a life-changing decision. Akid adopted me as his son and raised me as a gardener. Then Ishtar, the goddess of love and war, took affection for me.
Suck my dick.
From these modest beginnings, Sargon the Great built armies to dispersed empires, conquering much of Mesopotamia. His 56-year reign transformed the ancient world. The parallels to Moses' secret birth,
motherfucker.
waterproof basket sealed with bitumen, river rescue, humble upbringing,
Goddamn son of a
eventual
bitch.
rise to leadership. Assyriologist Samuel Noah Kramer and others have suggested
March,
presents
you
an
goddamn
early example of
motherfucker.
literal involvement.
Suck my
The
dick,
Hebrew
bitch.
scribes may have applied a famous
Suck my
Mesopotamian
dick,
king's
bitch.
backstory
God damn it.
to their own leader. There's evidence this legend served as royal propaganda. In 8th century BCE,
He bring out that whore.
Sargon II,
He bring out that whore.
royal blood, who deliberately adopted the name of this legendary predecessor whose humble origins were no barrier to
Suck my
Yet
dick,
there
bitch.
are crucial differences. Sargon's tale addresses illegitimacy and personal survival, while Moses's confronts ethnic persecution and collective survival. The resolutions differ too. Sargon
This is
becomes
boring.
a conquering king, while most
Suck my dick. Stupid! How goddamn stupid can you be?
These differences reflect the distinct values of their respective cultures, though there are traditions where Moses is said to be.
You goddamn stupid goddamn motherfucker.
Goddamn. We discover another royal
goddamn
whose river
motherfucker.
journey would lead not to Krishna, but to Tragic, the divine warrior Karna. In the Sanskrit epic, Mahabharata, compiled between 400 BCE to 400 CE from older oral traditions, we find another basket-born hero.
You stupid motherfucker.
Yet uniquely Indian elements. Princess Kunti, before her marriage, receives a magic boon, allowing her to summon any god and bear their child. Curious but naive, she tests his power by calling upon Surya, the sun god. To her astonishment, Surya appears and she perceives a son born with golden earrings, divine armor attached to his body, making his supernatural origin. But as the unwed princess, Kunti faces scandal and ruin with a heavy heart,
Cause that was fucking stupid.
Of the public,
Alright,
with no choice,
his.
Kunti puts him in a basket
Stupid
and set him
motherfucker.
afloat
Stupid
on the Ganga
fucker.
River. He later became famous as Karna. The basket drifts until it is discovered by Ahimsa, a charioteer, and his wife Radha. These humble foster parents raise the boy as their own, naming him Karna. Karna grows into one of India's greatest warriors, renowned for both skill and generosity.
Take that
But
fucking
unlike
pony.
Moses and Sargon, he
Please
never
take that
learns his true
goddamn
parentage
pony.
until it's too late. In the epic's tragic twist,
Please take that
Karna
goddamn
unknowingly
pony, you
fights
goddamn
against his own
son of a goddamn
half-brothers
bitch.
in the Great Kurukshetra War. He died
Crushed
without ever being
her.
publicly acknowledged as Kunti's firstborn son. Like his river basket peers, Karna has divine or royal parentage kept secret. Experiences an illicit birth leading to abandonment.
That goddamn
Is rescued by people of modest status
Crushed.
and rises to prominence. But the Mahabharata adds a profound twist to this familiar framework. Scholar David Leaning notes, while most exposed hero tales culminate in triumphant recognition of identity, Karna's story subverts this expectation with tragic irony. The emphasis on shame and honor in Karna's story reflects Indian cultural values around caste, legitimacy, and dharma. His abandonment comes not from external threat, but from societal pressure and fear. From India's tragic hero, our journey takes us to Rome, where another pair of exposed infants would grow to found one of history's greatest empires. In the mist-shrouded hills where Rome would one day stand, our final river baby tale unfolds. Not with one infant, but two. Sylvia, a princess of Alba Longa, and a Vestal virgin sworn to celibacy, gives birth to twin boys. Their father, she claims, is the god Mars himself. Her uncle, the usurper king Amulius, is furious. He has forced Rhea Sylvia into the Vestal Order, specifically to prevent her from bearing children who might challenge his throne. Ancient family politics, making your Thanksgiving dinner drama look positively tame by comparison. Livy, Roman historian, tells us Amulius imprisoned Rhea Sylvia and ordered the twins to be drowned in the river. Evidently, throw it in the river was ancient tyranny's go-to problem-solving technique, the royal equivalent of, have you tried turning it off and on again? The twins are placed in a basket or trough, set adrift on the flood-swollen Tiber River. Another variation on our familiar motif. The vessel drifts to the riverbank, coming to rest at the foot of a fig tree, the sacred Ficus ruminalis. What happens next has become one of the most iconic images in Western culture. A she-wolf discovers the abandoned twins. Instead of devouring them, she nurses them with her milk, keeping them alive until human life arrives. Perhaps history's first documented case of, I was going to eat you, but you're actually kind of cute. Every dog owner knows the thing. A shepherd named Faustulus witnesses the miracle, and with his wife Acca Laurentia, takes the boys home to raise as their own sons. Romulus and Remus grow up as rugged shepherd boys, unaware of their royal and divine heritage. Eventually, through a series of events, they learn their true identity and overthrow the wicked Amulius, restoring their grandfather to the throne. The twins decide to found a new city on the site, where they were saved. But in a tragic turn, they quarrel over its location, and Romulus kills Remus, becoming the sole founder of the first king of Rome. This founding myth became central to Roman identity. The image of the she-wolf nursing Romulus and Remus appears on countless Roman coins, statues, and buildings. A symbol of Rome's divine destiny. Like our other stories, the Roman tale included distinguished parentage, a prophecy of doom, attempted infanticide by exposure on water, rescue by humble figures, and eventual triumph. Classicist Jan Bremer explains, this narrative served to legitimize Rome itself by linking it to divine favor, while also celebrating the rustic virtue Romans associated with their origin.
In the meantime, consider this. If every word of the Bible is inerrant, it is divine,
unmistakable,
or inspired by God, and in this Bible you find God permitting, sometimes even demanding, sacrifices of human. What does this tell you about the nature, the character, the morality of this deity? For me, it raises questions about the morality of the authors of the text. But also, what does it say about modern preachers who want to demand that our morality needs to be derived from the Word of God, when this God behaves in such a manner?
These parallels reflect universal psychological
In John Milton's Paradise Lost, the foremost demon of hell, and one of the most terrifying of Satan's lieutenants, is Molech, the lord of child sacrifice. The horrid king besmeared with blood of human sacrifice, and parents' tears. That name has struck fear in people's hearts.
The Exodus story, while celebrating Moses, also emphasizes female agency as the instrument of salvation. In a patriarchal world, women's compassion and courage repeatedly thwart male power. As literature, these stories employ sophisticated techniques. Robert Alter notes biblical accounts artful irony. The future liberator of Israel is raised by the daughter of the very tyrant who ordered his death. Some see national allegory. Moses' journey through water prefigures
Man, this is boring as God fuck. Did she have a smelly shelly room?
Who ordered his death. Some see national allegory. Moses' journey through water.
Man, this is boring as fuck. You suck my motherfucking dick, bitch. Suck my fucking dick. You suck my goddamn motherfucking dick, bitch. You suck my goddamn motherfucking dick. You suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick. No. You suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch. Suck my fucking dick.
Long before she was demonized in medieval folklore,
You suck my dick,
Lilith
bitch.
lurked in the margins of scripture. Some might say,
Suck my
hiding in
fucking
plain sight,
dick.
depending on their translation. Though absent from most canonical biblical narratives, she emerges, briefly, yet provocatively, in Isaiah
Suck my
34:14,
fucking dick.
a passage describing the desolation of Edom, where wild beasts and night creatures gather. In some translations, she is named explicitly Lilith, the night.
Jesus goddamn
In others,
fucking
she vanishes
Christ.
entirely, replaced by owls, screeching creatures, or ambiguous monsters of the night.
Jesus goddamn fucking
Why does her
goddamn
presence flicker
Christ.
between versions? Today we'll quite literally be
Yeah,
hunting
fucking
Lilith
goddamn
down
fucking
through every
goddamn
translation of the
Christ
Bible
of
that we can
fuck.
find, exploring the linguistic, theological, and cultural reasons
Christ your
behind the
goddamn
shifting
fuck.
identity of this
Christ your
notorious she-demon.
fuck.
In the Amplified Bible, an English translation of the Bible,
Christ
authors
your
sought to expand
fuck.
on the original text by providing additional information and context, which would help aid the reader in broadening their understanding. It deliberately used English equivalents in place of the original Hebrew, in the attempt to make the overall text more relatable to the
Christ your
English-speaking
goddamn
reader.
Holy Ghost.
With
fuck.
that, we do get a somewhat unique reading of Isaiah 34:14, and a reading
You
that puts
stupid
Lilith in the
goddamn
spotlight,
motherfucker.
if only momentarily. The creatures of the desert will encounter jackals, and the hairy goat will call to its kind. Indeed, Lilith,
Stupid
night demon,
fucking bitch.
will settle
Stupid
and
fucker.
find herself a place of rest. As we can see, this translation of the Bible showcases Lilith quite vividly. It assumes the reader doesn't know who or what Lilith is. How could they, if they are only reading the biblical text? So it supplies in brackets the words night demon, establishing Lilith as a nocturnal nemesis. As we'll see with other translations, the purpose of the passage is to exemplify the ruin and desolation
That
here
motherfucker
at
was
Edom,
gone anyways.
a place that becomes so forsaken by God that only the worst things can reside here, specifically the worst supernatural kinds of things. Considering Lilith is mentioned as finding herself a place to rest in this land, it speaks to how terrible of a creature that she was. For only a being of considerable depravity and waywardness
Now
could ever
fuck up and
conceive
put my
the ruins
goddamn
of
king in
Edom
check.
as being
That
a
fucking
restful
whore.
home. The downside of this passage, as is the case in other translations, is that it introduces us to Lilith and then essentially throws a sheet over her. We don't hear from Lilith again in any of the translations, nor does she play any kind of role in the subsequent scriptural narratives. This allows some commentators to argue that the use of Lilith in these translations should not be taken literally, but rather as a dramatic effect
You
used by the
stupid
author to
goddamn
convey just
motherfucker.
how bad it was here at the ruins of Edom, that night demons gathered here. Indeed, borrowing a creature like Lilith, whose origins are found in Jewish traditions,
Stupid, you
in
stupid
Babylonian times,
fucking bitch.
has two effects. It creates a visual mood board for the reader to comprehend the godlessness that now plague the land, but it also piques the
You
curiosity,
kiss that fucking
for better or
not
worse,
goodbye, son of a
opening
bitch.
the rabbit hole of Jewish mysticism that some might say
I'm
is
going to stick my dick
counterintuitive
straight
for
up
the
your
reader
butt.
to entertain.
I bet you I'll kick
Interestingly,
your ass and you go back
in
to
the classical
900.
edition
You got that
of the
1 for the 30
Amplified
rate by a
Bible,
fluke.
we don't
You're
see
too
Lilith
poor
mentioned at
player
all.
to be that.
Instead, the text conveys the
Ah,
desolation of Edom perfectly well without her,
Suck
saying,
my dick, bitch.
and the wild beasts of the desert will meet
Stupid!
here with howling creatures,
Stupid,
wolves and
The
hyenas,
stupid
and
machine!
the shaggy wild goat will call to his fellow. The night monster will
Cause that
settle
was
there
fucking stupid
and
as
find a
fuck.
place of rest.
Stupid fucker.
Demons are not explicitly mentioned at all in this passage,
Stupid
but instead are
fucker.
swapped with the more traditional wild beasts. Wolves,
Okay, I'll put your
hyenas,
goddamn
goats,
eye
things of a more
fucked his.
corporeal nature,
Holy
and certainly not
stupid
belonging to the
fucker.
supernatural. A more
Maybe
realistic image
maybe
of
you
the
were
ruin
just
are
having a
portrayed
bad
here,
day.
although we are told that the night monster
Like my
will
game
settle
last
here.
game.
As we've
Or maybe
seen,
you
the
just
modern
can't play chess
Amplified
with a
Bible
good
designates
god
this
fuck.
monster as Lilith,
Or the
but the
good
classical
god
version
damn.
leaves this far more open-ended.
Suck my dick.
Lilith
bitch.
isn't mentioned at all, and it might be said that
Suck my
including an
fucking dick.
ambiguous night
Suck
monster
my
in this
dick,
passage was more than enough for a classical audience to visualize something grotesque and terrifying. Therefore, the
You
use
suck
of
my
Lilith
dick, bitch.
certainly seems to become a more stylistic choice by the authors and translators, something inserted to intensify
Suck
the
my
shock
dick,
and
bitch.
horror
Oh
of
god,
how bad
fucking
Edom
damn
had
it.
actually become after God had abandoned it,
Suck my
and to
dick,
trigger
bitch.
the reader into taking it more seriously. In the Common English Bible,
You
yet another
stupid
translation
goddamn
into English
motherfucker.
designed specifically for English
Suck my
speakers
dick,
with
bitch.
accessibility and readability in mind, we see Lilith slipped into the passage almost casually. We are
Suck
told
my dick,
wildcats will meet hyenas, the goat demon will call to his friends, and there Lilith will lurk and find a resting place.
Suck my
In this
motherfucking
translation,
dick,
there are
bitch.
no brackets supplementing any further information about Lilith. We aren't told that she is a night demon, nor any other kind of creature. In fact, it's almost as if the translation assumes that the reader knows
Suck
who
my
Lilith
fucking
is,
dick.
and already knows of her terrifying reputation. Interestingly, we are told of the goat demon in this passage, possibly a reference to the Azazel goat, of which all sin is ascribed to in
Suck
Jewish
my
tradition,
fucking dick.
or perhaps a more modern linkage to Satan himself. As with the other translations, we are once again told that Lilith finds a place to rest here. Of all the final
Suck my
places on
fucking
Earth to
dick.
reside in,
Now
she
fucking with me
chooses
that.
here,
Oh god
a station
damn it.
befitting of her foulness. In the Complete Jewish Bible, a translation designed for both Jewish and non-Jewish readers, names and key terms are returned to the more original Hebraic language and presented in an easy-to-understand manner, allowing the reader to say the words the way they were likely said in the time of their composition. It's interesting then that by this translation, we see Lilith return again.
Jesus,
only this time, her identity is not supplemented with the words night demon, but instead the night monster. We are told wildcats and hyenas will meet there, and billy goats call to each other. Lilith, the night monster, will lurk there and find herself a place to rest. Indeed, her name is spelled slightly different, with the H being dropped.
Stupid!
Lilith. What's more interesting here is how this translation unintentionally conflates with the translation of the classical Amplified Bible, specifically identifying Lilith as this ambiguous night monster that haunts the rooms of Edom. In the Darby translation, a new translation by John Nelson Darby, a principal figure in the nonconformist church movement of the Plymouth Brethren, focused more so on a highly literal translation of the New Testament in 1867. However, the Old Testament passages, including that of Isaiah, weren't completed until after his death by his students, as late as 1882. In this translation, we are told of the significance of Lilith through the definitive article the. Yet this can also be argued against in the same passage. We are told, and there shall the beasts of the desert meet with the jackals, and the wild goat shall cry to his fellow. The Lilith also shall settle there, and find for herself a place of rest. Firstly, by use of the definitive article the in the Lilith, it gives us the impression that Lilith was a prominent creature. This wasn't just the name of the creature, it was a title assigned to her that might represent an even greater wickedness. It also suggests that Lilith was well known. There are no brackets or parentheses supplying us with additional context, but rather the text appears to assume that we would know who this Lilith was. To counter this though, you might have noticed that the use of Lilith here is uncapitalized, further leading to the idea that this was not a name, but perhaps more of a title or some kind of moniker. In a way, you might argue that it also reduces her significance somewhat. You might say that Darby implies here that she isn't important enough to be individualized with even a name, surely not one that ought to be capitalized, and with that in mind, it lessens Lilith, redefining her as a footnote. The adverb also, as in Lilith also shall settle there, furthermore gives the impression that Lilith was an afterthought. Indeed, it reads as if Darby kind of forgot that she was even meant to be in this section, and sort of just added, oh yeah, Lilith was also there. In the Douay-Rheims Bible, a translation from the Latin Vulgate into English by members of the English College in Douai, France, we are told not of Lilith specifically, but rather a creature one might expect to find in Greek mythology. We are told, and demons and monsters shall meet, and the hairy ones shall cry out one to another. There hath the Lamia lain down and found rest for herself. We know from ancient Greek tales that Lamia was a figure often depicted as a beautiful woman, but also one who was something of an evil temptress, who was known to lead men astray and then devour them. She was also believed to be depicted as a child-eating monster, a characteristic she also shares with Lilith in the Babylonian legends, where Lilith, sometimes conflated with the demoness Lamashtu, was believed to hunt both infant children and those who were still in the womb. Much like Lilith, this Lamia could also be considered as a night spirit, or at least a creature who lurked in the darkness, waiting to strike against the vulnerable. Indeed, it's true to say that there are many similarities between Lilith and Lamia, and it's entirely possible that the former inspired the creation of the latter. Nonetheless, it's an interesting choice of monster to slot into this translation. Sure, Lamia sounds like the sort of creature that would fit right in.
Avec the ear, you're
but it sounds like it would be better suited towards a Greek
motherfucker.
audience. Perhaps
The
something
stupid
we'd expect to
machine.
find in the Septuagint.
Stupid,
In the International Standard Version of the
stupid
Bible,
fucking bitch.
we are shown something unique and perhaps slightly more terrifying than the previous translations have to offer. The idea of multiple Liliths. We are told, and the desert creatures will meet with hyenas, and goat demons will call out to each other. There also, Liliths will settle and find for themselves a resting place. The pluralization of Lilith here gives us the notion that this was not one single entity, but rather many of the same type of creature who had come to gather in the ruins of Edom. Such a concept existed in Babylonian superstition, where it was believed the demoness Lamashtu would employ her spirits, the Lilitu and the Lilu, notice how these sound quite similar to Lilith, and use them to bring ill will against pregnant women and young children. These spirits, who were immeasurable in number, were also known to spread diseases, seduce men in their sleep, and cause general terror upon the household. These creatures, it was believed, originated and roamed in the desert, so there was certain caution to heed when one was travelling through such a region, not just against the landscape and the elements themselves, but indeed of the
stupid, you stupid.
With that in mind, it
fucking
makes
bitch.
sense why the translators of the International Standard Version used these creatures,
stupid
seemingly
fucker.
rebranding them as Liliths in an effort to illustrate how forlorn a place like Edom had now
That
become.
fucking pisses me off.
It might also be of interest that in the footnotes of this translation,
Suck my
the Liliths
dick, bitch.
in this context are explained as being
You suck
desert
my
demons
dick, bitch.
of the night. In the Lexham English Bible, we are given another look at Lilith, with the
Suck my
authors seemingly
fucking
suggesting
dick.
that whilst they cannot be sure if Lilith was there, it's likely that a creature like her would be found there. We can determine this by the use of the adverb surely, which gives us the impression that the authors were pretty certain that this was the original intention of the
Suck my
text.
fucking dick.
Surely, there Lilith shall repose, we are told, which kind of makes me think that they were aware of the differing opinions surrounding the passage,
Suck
and
my
were
dick,
throwing
bitch.
their lot in with those who advocated
my-
for Lilith.
You suck my fucking
Surely she
dick,
must have
bitch.
been there, the text seems to echo, and in that sense, it almost comes across as conversational. In any case, the full passage reads, "And desert creatures shall meet with hyenas, and a goat demon shall call to his neighbour. Surely there,
Now fuck him over
Lilith
the
shall repose, and she shall
You
find herself a
stupid
resting
fucking
place
bitch.
for herself." Interestingly, in the footnotes of this translation, we are told that the use of Lilith here was likely a Hebrew transliteration, possibly a
Stupid
former
fucking
name for a
bitch.
Mesopotamian
Stupid
night demon.
fucking cunt.
So once more, this is congruent with
Come on,
previous
you
suggestions,
come on, you
such as the
fucking cunt.
International Standard Version,
Suck
where
my
Lilith
dick,
is
bitch.
identified less so as the woman, who in Jewish legend was Adam's first wife, and subsequently the mother of demons, but instead with the Lilitu of ancient Mesopotamian legend. In the translation
God
by
fucking
American minister
damn it.
Eugene Peterson, which is more of a paraphrasing of scripture than it is a strict translation, we are told of some interesting tidbits concerning Lilith's
Suck
character.
my
The night demon Lilith, evil and
Suck my
rapacious,
fucking dick.
will establish permanent quarters. Here, Lilith is explicitly expressed as a night demon. No, the
suck my
night
dick,
demon,
bitch.
further emphasizing her reputation. She, as if it needed saying, is evil and rapacious, leaving little to
Suck
no
my
room for
fucking
speculation regarding her
God
character.
fucking damn it.
It is here
Suck
in the
my
ruins
dick,
of Edom
bitch.
that she establishes not only a resting place, but her new permanent residence. Perhaps the only place in the world grim and dark enough to suit her.
Suck
Whilst
my
it
dick,
provides a
bitch.
near enough accurate representation of the biblical events, some readers have criticized Peterson's message translation, saying that it has too much in the
Suck
way
my
of interpretive
fucking
bias
dick.
to qualify as a legitimate translation. With that in mind, it's plausible that some would
Man, this
dismiss
is
his
boring
passage
as
of
fuck.
Isaiah as over-embellishment, or accuse him of shoehorning in this evil and rapacious Lilith simply because her name or title is used in other translations. In the revised edition of the New American Bible, we are told of a similar version to the Lexham English Bible,
Come on, you fucking
where it
bitch.
is said, "There shall the Lilith repose, and find for herself a
God
place to
fucking
rest."
damn it.
As we can see, the verb repose makes a return, allowing us to gather that
Suck my
Lilith truly
dick,
did
bitch.
find these ruins in Edom to be a more than satisfactory place to
Suck
reside
my
in.
dick, bitch.
Another commonality is that the revised edition of the New American Bible doesn't capitalize Lilith's name, much like the Darby translation, giving us the impression
Suck my
once again
dick.
that this was
Suck
less
my
a
dick.
name and more of a title.
Suck my dick.
Perhaps
You
it's also
suck
a way
my
in
dick,
which to
bitch.
dehumanize the character. She who, according to Jewish legend, was once the first woman who willingly transitioned into a demon. Whilst this revised edition
Fuck
of the New
off.
American Bible specifically mentions Lilith, the standard version of this Bible refers to this creature in the same way many other Bible translations do,
Fuck off and
as
suck
a
off.
night bird. We'll go into more detail about this later on,
Fuck
but there
off.
are efforts to further conflate Lilith with this night bird, on the basis that Lilith
Fuck
was
off.
once considered to be a creature that was part woman, part demon, and indeed part bird. One of these ideas stems from the Burney relief, a terracotta
Suck my
plaque
fucking
discovered
dick.
in southern Iraq that depicts a woman with wings and bird feet. Believed by some scholars at the time
Suck my
of discovery
dick,
to be
bitch.
a representation of Lilith.
Suck my
Modern
fucking
scholars
dick.
debate this, however, suggesting that the relief might actually be indicative of the Mesopotamian goddess Inanna or
Suck my dick,
Ereshkigal.
bitch.
In any case, if this was
Suck
a
my
depiction of
fucking
Lilith,
dick.
her bird-like characteristics certainly lend to this interpretation of her being this night bird, perhaps a screeching owl as described in other translations. In the New Catholic Bible, we are given a somewhat different take on this night creature. We are told, "There too the nightjar will return to rest, and find a place for repose."
Suck my dick.
Evidently, Lilith is not mentioned at all here, and is instead substituted for this nightjar. Now, it's unknown what exactly is meant by this, but as we know from dig sites of ancient Mesopotamia,
Jesus goddamn
people
fucking
did
goddamn
indeed
Christ.
use incantation bowls and ornaments to trap Lily
Jesus
and
goddamn
Lily,
Christ.
should these sorts of demons have
Jesus
entered their
goddamn
home.
Christ.
Indeed, several of these incantation bowls appear
Jesus
to even
goddamn
depict Lilith
fucking Christ.
herself, with spells and symbols written around said depiction,
Jesus fucking
enclosing her
goddamn
in the
Christ.
scene. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to
Jesus
suggest
goddamn-
that this
Jesus
jar
goddamn
is in
fuck.
reference
I
to the
sold my soul to
aforementioned
win-
bowls
No, I
and
don't.
ornaments that were historically used in defense against
Jesus
such
fucking
notorious
Christ.
monsters. The New Revised Anglicized Version and the New
Christ
Revised
goddamn
Anglicized Catholic
fuck.
Edition both echo the Lexham
Christ
English Bible
fuck.
and the New American Bible, telling us quite predictably,
Christ
"There
the
too
goddamn
Lilith
fuck.
shall repose, and find a place to rest." The Orthodox
Christ the
Jewish
fuck.
Bible, meanwhile, goes the same route as the complete Jewish Bible, referring
Christ
to
the
Lilith
fuck.
as Lilith, telling us, "And Lilith, night creature, dwells there and finds for itself a place of rest." In this version, we are again supplemented with further details, where the text tells
Christ
us
the
that this
fuck.
Lilith is a night creature. Unlike the complete Jewish Bible though, the Orthodox Jewish Bible does not capitalize the name of Lilith, once more
Christ
lessening her
the
significance and individualism. You might also notice that this version further attempts to
Christ
dehumanize
the
Lilith
fuck.
by not even personifying her, referring to the creature as an it as opposed to a her. In The Voice, a biblical translation published in 2012 that serves as a dynamic equivalent of the Bible, with a modern narrative approach, we are given perhaps the most vivid and scathing account of Lilith thus far, one that pegs her firmly as a demoness. We are told, "Among the howling and hissing wild creatures and demons, Lilith herself, demoness of the night, will call Edom her haunt, a place to recoup and rest between her devastating days." This is probably one of the only biblical translations that uses the word demoness to describe Lilith, despite being known as the mother of demons in greater Jewish folklore. In a way, it's almost as if the original authors and translators were too coy to make this connection, and perhaps
Christ
didn't want to
goddamn
promote such a
fuck.
character in a
Christ
passage that
fuck.
wasn't meant to be dedicated to her.
Christ the
Demoness
fuck.
of the Night also comes with its own set of connotations. Suddenly,
Christ
this
fuck.
Lilith is symbolic of some dark and wicked power. Something that, to be honest, is only intensified
Christ
because of how
fuck.
reticent the original authors are, by never mentioning her again. Much as the case
Christ
with other
the goddamn
translations,
fuck.
Edom
Christ the
becomes her
fuck.
home, the only place dank and dismal
Christ the
enough for
fuck.
her to willingly reside in. Meanwhile,
Christ
in the
the
Wycliffe
fuck.
Bible, we find ourselves confronted
Christ
by
the
the same
fuck.
creature in the Dwayne Reams Bible,
Christ the fuck.
Lamia. What's compelling about the Wycliffe Bible is that it was the first complete English translation from Latin, making it widely available for the first time to an audience
You
beyond
Christ the
30.
fucking bitch, you don't know
In this
how to put me in
translation by
checkmate.
English
You
philosopher
Christ the
John
bitch,
Wycliffe,
motherfucker.
we are told Lamia
Suck
shall
my
lie
slut, you
there
Christ
and
the
find
fucker.
rest there to herself, and fiends and
Christ
wonderful
the
beasts,
fuck.
like men in the higher part, and like donkeys in the
Christ
lower
the
part,
fuck.
and hairy all over, shall meet, and one shall cry to the other,
Too bad the
The
goddamn
Lamia shall
motherfucker
lie
didn't
down
run out
there,
of fucking time.
and shall find
I could
rest
won-
there
Could
for
win a
herself.
fucking game.
It's interesting that with
Christ
the
the
opportunity
fuck.
to introduce English speakers to the Bible for the first
Suck my
time,
dick,
back in the
bitch.
14th century, Wycliffe chose not to introduce us to Lilith, nor a nightbird or a screeching owl,
Suck my
but to the
dick,
Greek
bitch.
Lamia. For every translation I haven't mentioned, specifically
Suck my
the more
dick,
well-known New International and King James versions, you'll find that the overwhelming majority refer
Suck
to this
my
creature at
fucking dick.
Edom as either a night monster, a night bird, or a screeching owl. The New International Version doesn't entertain the concept of Lilith at all, but rather omits her and refers
Suck
to the
my
more
dick,
ambiguous night creatures exclusively, giving us the idea that these were some kind of malevolent creatures that were nocturnal in nature. The King James Version, amongst others, refer to the creature as a screeching owl, which independently might not give us the same reservation as, say, the demoness.
He's bringing
found
out that
in the Voice
fucking whore.
translation. However, as you'll remember, we have seen how various translations have attempted
Suck
to
my
connect
dick,
Lilith
bitch.
to the night bird,
Now
giving
fuck
her
God.
associated characteristics
Jesus
to that
goddamn
of a bird.
fucking Christ.
And because
Jesus
an owl
fucking
is pretty
Christ.
much a nocturnal bird, the screeching owl can be
Jesus
seen as
fucking
code
Christ.
for Lilith by some readers. What's more, the verb screeching
Jesus
allows for the
fucking
connotations of a woman wailing. Screeching isn't the sort of sound we'd normally associate with an owl, but rather hooting.
Fucking Christ.
So while some readers might consider it a stretch, there are those who use this as justification that the screech owl was in fact Lilith. One of the more unique translations when it comes to Isaiah 34:14 is that
Christ
of the original
fuck.
Revised Standard Version, where we see this creature described not as Lilith or Lamia, but as a night hag.
You stupid
We are
fucker. You
told,
could take that
"Yea,
goddamn...
there shall the night hag alight, and find for herself a resting place." We know from
Christ,
Babylonian
goddamn
legend that
fuck.
Lilith and associated creatures were responsible for
Christ,
attacking men
fuck.
in their sleep. Lilith and her cronies were
Christ,
believed to infiltrate
fuck.
dreams and could effectively entice men into
Christ,
sexual activity,
fuck.
or worse, take them by force. This would become the initial basis to explain away nocturnal emissions, or wet
Christ,
dreams.
fuck.
But by medieval times, it had become the role of the succubus, yet another creature closely associated with Lilith, who would descend upon men with the sole purpose of stealing their seed and using it to birth her own children, those who would be half human and half demonic.
Christ,
These
fuck.
sorts of accounts of men being attacked in their sleep or sexually assaulted by demons became fairly common, not just across
Christ,
Mesopotamia,
fuck.
but in cultures throughout the world. By modern times, such experiences were explained away by sleep paralysis, where the victim is certain that they're awake, but are paralyzed and unable to move. In this state, the victim is believed to experience wild, almost hallucinatory phenomena, where they are haunted by various creatures and monsters. What's particularly interesting about these cases is that the night hag,
She's cute. Boom.
Thank you for joining us. This is part 2 of a two-part series. So if you haven't seen the first part, I encourage you to check that out, or you can just watch this part 2 and watch the first part later. It's not something that has to be watched sequentially, but the quick synopsis is this. I am going through terms that I believe, in my most humble opinion, many Christians just don't understand. So let's get back into the list, shall we? The next term that Christians just don't understand is gaslighting. And I'm sorry, but if you really understood what gaslighting is, so much of what happens in your churches would be scary as hell to you. And I know that sounds like a low blow, it sounds like a dig, but here's a simple analogy I'm going to give you, and we're going to move on from this one. If your daughter came home with a new boyfriend, and the boyfriend acted just like religion does to us, you would want her to get the hell away from that boyfriend. If that boyfriend, her new boyfriend, said, hey, just trust me. If the boyfriend said, I'm never going to see you, you just have to trust that I'm there. You need to have faith. If the boyfriend said, I don't know if I'm ever going to do anything for you that you should measure, but you should still keep asking me silently every day to do things for you. You tell her to get the hell away. If the boyfriend said that she should disregard the functioning of her logical mind and replace it with whatever he says because she should have faith, I want her to get the hell away from him. And yet, if that boyfriend isn't a boyfriend, but it's her new Christian denomination, you feel happy for her for some reason. The next baffling Christian term is genocide. At this point, I really don't know what Christians define as genocide. Because trying to get them to actually tell you anything that qualifies as genocide is pretty damn difficult. The next term that Christians don't seem to understand, or at least cannot agree on, is God. I guess this is predictable, and I mentioned earlier in the video that
You stupid,
probably to some extent every religion in the world is defined by the different beliefs of every single person who's in that religion. But I really feel like more so than other religions I've been exposed to, if you talk to 100 Christians and ask them about God, you will either get 100 different answers, or you will get this generic kind of fluffy answer like God is love, which has no connection whatsoever to the Bible. They will spew a whole bunch of beautiful, wonderful language, flowery stuff, and yet it has no connection to the God that we actually see explicitly called out, defined, and explained in the Bible. So either God is everything to all people, which means that they don't really know what God is, or God is this wonderful, flowery hippie type, which doesn't come from the Old Testament, and it doesn't even come from the New Testament. So I'm not sure exactly what they think or who they think God is. Along those same lines, remember I said sometimes these beautifully go in order even though they're just alphabetical. If you can show me two Christians who agree on heaven and or hell, I will show you the Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, and a righteous member of the Trump administration. I don't know if there's any concept in the Bible that is more fractured, in my opinion, than heaven and or hell. I mean, some Christians will tell you there is no hell, or that only certain people go to it, but the rest of everyone else is annihilated who didn't quite get into heaven. Even when we talk about what's in hell, some will tell you that maggots will eat their flesh, even though that comes from a part of Isaiah that they don't seem to understand. I released a video just recently talking about this. Some Christians think that Sheol is hell. It is not. Some Christians think that Gehenna is hell. Well, Gehenna is the term that was almost always used by Jesus. But if you understand what Gehenna is, and then you compare it to modern-day versions of hell, they have little in common. A lot of Christians have this kind of default cultural identity or memory that comes from things like Dante's Inferno, even though that is fiction. Most of that is just all made up. And these same problems come about with heaven. even asking Christians, when do you go to heaven or hell? Is it directly after you die? Is it at the time of judgment? I mean, you will get opinions that are just all over the board. This next phrase, I don't know if Christians don't know what it means, but I can't remember the last time I heard a Christian actually use it. The phrase is, I don't know. I don't know what it is about this desperate need to define the universe, even if the terms that you defined it in are ridiculous, completely unverifiable, and outside any of the bounds of reality. But people will come up with any solution in their mind that they can, rather than just say, I don't know. What's even worse is Christians will come up with the most magical solutions. There's Sky who lives outside of space and time. He created all of the cosmos. They somehow will then throw that in your face and say, see, Christianity has more explanatory power. As though you get points for coming up with the most ridiculous, unverifiable explanation that anyone could possibly make up. And somehow that makes your answers better than me just telling you, I don't know. It is baffling to me to this day how people will cling to any explanation that they can find rather than just say, I'm not sure. I don't know. We'll have to wait for more information. Maybe we'll never know. The idea that you could ever bring up questions, especially deep questions about the cosmos, and people might never get the answer, seems to terrify people. And I think that's really sad. The next term that Christians don't seem to understand is inspiration, or at least particularly in regard to divine inspiration. I love the way this gets thrown about all the time. There's a tree right outside my house. If I came to this camera today and I said to you, I was looking at that tree and it's very pretty and it has inspired me to write a poem. I think we know what that means. I looked at the tree. It was nice. I wrote a poem. That doesn't even necessarily mean that the poem I wrote was even about the tree. It might have been that just by looking at the tree, it was pretty, it got me thinking about all sorts of things. I might have gone and written a poem about something that didn't have anything to do with the tree, but it just got my gears flowing. Even if I tell you that this poem about a tree was inspired by me looking at the tree, do you then assume that the tree magically moved my hand and somehow made me write the exact words on the page? Or do you assume that I, as an independent agent, while thinking about this pretty tree...
Stupid bucker. Man, that goddamn bucking pisses me off. Suck my dick, bitch. Suck my dick, bitch. Suck my dick, bitch. Suck my dick. You suck my dick, bitch. Suck my dick, bitch.
Welcome back.
Thanks, man.
Suck.
I wanted to actually touch on basically the same stuff we were talking about last time. I want to go to Isaiah 49.
Yeah, about
the fucking dick.
The mysterious servant in Isaiah 49 that sounds like it's the prophet.
Yeah.
What about it?
Suck my dick.
Yeah. Well, you don't think it's about Jesus, obviously, right?
No, I think this is either a reference to the remnant of Israel or a reference to the prophet being sent to Israel. We have a bunch of instances in the Hebrew Bible, the most famous being Amos, of the prophets being referred to as servants. So I wouldn't have a problem interpreting Isaiah 49 as Isaiah speaking about himself being sent to the nation of Israel.
Suck my dick.
Okay. But what about the part where it says he'll be a light for Gentiles?
Suck my dick.
And that his salvation will reach the end of the earth.
Yeah. What about it?
Suck
Yeah,
my
how
fucking
did the prophet Isaiah do that?
He didn't. That's why the prophecies all fail. All these prophecies fail. Like if you read the restoration prophecies of
Suck my
2nd Isaiah, none of them come true. Right?
Suck
So,
my dick, bitch.
the interpretation that you're trying to provide is similar to what Jews in the first century were providing, which is Well, the prophecies can't fail. Therefore, we have to reinterpret them. And my position is quite clear. They just failed.
Yeah. Well, here's why I don't think they can
suck my dick, suck my dick, suck my dick.
Once everything was finished, then that's basically the end of the earth, right?
Suck my
There's going to be judgment right after that. So it couldn't have been something that was immediate, because then the gospel would have had no time to reach anybody.
I disagree. I mean, go to Isaiah 49 with me and read what it actually says, right? In verse 6 it says, "Is it too light a thing that you should be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the survivors of Israel?" This is talking about the restoration of the nation of Israel. And we've seen it multiple times in the book of Isaiah where God says that Israel is going to be the light to the nations. Through their restoration, that they are going to be a light and a covenant to the nations, right? So when I'm reading Isaiah 49, I'm reading, in context with the rest of Isaiah, that it's what the nations are witnessing with the restoration of Israel. That is that's the light. That's the thing that's going to bring them to Yahweh.
Yeah, but what about? So how would that actually end of the earth? Like people at that time. Where did the ends of the earth? That's what I'm.
Well, the ends of the earth had nothing to do with what we think the ends of the earth look like today. Let me show you. I'm going to show you a Greek world map, which is even too big for the time period of Isaiah. In fact, I've got a map on my wall that you can't see behind me. The Babylonian map. That's probably more representative of what Isaiah thought. I'll show you real quick. So the Babylonian map of the world is quite small. And see if there's a way to share this. I can share it.
Suck my fucking dick, bitch.
I'm going to turn on the feature real quick.
Suck my dick, bitch.
Okay, so you should be able to see what's on my web browser. This is the Babylonian map of the world. The general idea in the ancient Near East was that the ancient Near East was the center of the earth, and then it was more or less surrounded by water. They didn't know necessarily that Europe was there. They didn't know that China or Russia was there. They thought that their region of the world was just the world, and we have the same thing with the Greeks. If you go to the Greek map of the world, it basically includes the ancient Near East with a little bit of extra. It includes the Mediterranean Sea with northern Africa and southern Europe and like nothing more, right? So
suck my dick, bitch.
When I'm reading this prophecy about the ends of the earth, to me, I think two things are true. One, they have no idea how big the earth actually is, and number two is it's certainly quite possible that they're speaking euphemistically. But what seems not to be ambiguous is the goal of the person or the entity in chapter 49. The goal is to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the survivors of Israel. This is a restoration prophecy. Right? And Jesus just didn't do that. He just got devastated.
Okay, but that brings me back to the original point that I was making. What happens after the restoration of Israel?
What hasn't happened, that's what I'm saying.
Right, but what linearly, like after the restoration of Israel, what is to come?
So after the restoration, I would say during the restoration of Israel would be the New Jerusalem and the reapportioned Promised Land and the laws of Moses being completely restored.
Suck my fucking dick, bitch.
So you think that was a failed prophecy and not one to come in the future?
Suck my dick.
Yeah.
But what would that imply for everyone else? I guess I should say. So restored Israel, what does that imply for the rest of the world?
It would imply that Israel would be taken from which they had been scattered, according to Isaiah 11, Isaiah 2, and elsewhere. They would be taken from the ends of the earth which they had been scattered, brought back to their homeland, and all of their ancient cities will be rebuilt. And then the 12 tribes will be in a reapportioned land according to the ending of Ezekiel. And then they're all going to live with an actual king and a restored Levitical priesthood.
Mm-hmm. But like, why don't you believe that that's something that's going to come over time? Like, why do you think it has to be something that happens instantly?
Well, because it seems quite clear that Isaiah was referring to the Babylonian exile when they come back from exile.
When they return, they rebuilt the second temple, right? But it's not in the same splendor or glory as like the first one.
Well, we don't really know exactly what the first one was like. I personally would suggest that the Temple of Herod was way greater than the Temple of Solomon.
Stupid!
Again, like the description of the temple in the Bible doesn't seem to match what we've discovered in the ancient Near East. So it might be kind of a grandiose description.
March.
That being said, I mean, the temple was pretty badass.
But would you have like, okay, so let's say, I know you don't believe it was fulfilled, but you believe that's
goddamn
one possible
fucking
fulfillment.
Christ.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that there's like a possible partial fulfillment.
Jesus,
I think
goddamn
these prophecies are just for the restoration of Israel after the Babylonian captivity, and they just didn't come true. Which is why people had to start saying, well, it'll come true later, or it partially came true, and the rest will come true later. I know Jewish rabbis today that believe all of these prophecies will come true eventually.
Well, the New Testament writers affirm this like strong.
Jesus, goddamn fucking.
What do you think they were doing with that?
Well, I think they were doing the same thing they did everywhere else. They were just misreading the Old Testament and making it about themselves. The same thing they were doing in the Dead Sea Scrolls. If you read the Pesher on Nahum and Habakkuk, they're literally just going through the Old Testament prophets and saying, well, we're going to have to rework this. This is no longer about Greece, it's about so-and-so, right?
I kind of see what you're saying, but at the same time, like, so why do you accept like the validity of the Old Testament, but not the validity of the New Testament?
Oh, I don't. I think the Old Testament's false. That's why I'm not Jewish. It's just that when I'm having discussions with Christians, I think the most poignant piece of argumentation is demonstrating that the New Testament simply is not a valid reading of the Hebrew Bible.
But you don't think it's because it has different contexts?
No, it certainly does have different context, but the question is, what did the author mean when they wrote it, right? So, for example, like I could say,
Jesus, goddamn.
Yeah,
it's very important.
when Isaiah wrote those words, what did those words mean, and what did they mean to his audience, right? And what
we also have to go through the lens that it's God who's orchestrating this plan through Isaiah. It's not just Isaiah speaking of his own Lord and his own prophecy.
No, I mean, in their worldview, they're obviously not just Isaiah's words, but they have to have actual meaning to the audience and understanding to the audience. And these words are essentially meaningless to the audience of Isaiah unless they're about his actual audience, right?
And it's possible that he is still referring to them. I mean, Isaiah 49:3 refers to the servant as Israel. But then in 49:6 it also refers to him as someone distinct from Israel who will return Israel to himself, to God.
Right. No. Well, it says that they're going to raise up the tribes of Jacob and restore the survivors of Israel. Right? But the same thing Jeremiah said in Jeremiah 25, Jeremiah 30, Jeremiah 31. It says after the Babylonian exile, God's going to bring them back to the land and completely restore them. Same thing Isaiah 56.
He'll bring them back to the land and completely restore them. That was Jeremiah what? 30?
It's going to be in Jeremiah 25, 30, and 31, and a little bit in 33, and you also want to see Ezekiel 36 and Ezekiel 37.
Jesus goddamn fucking Christ.
Should you bring them up on screen, or maybe just one of them?
Yeah. So, I think one of my favorites is actually going to be in Ezekiel 37. I think this is the clearest messianic, one of the clearest messianic passages, other than Jeremiah 33, that I think illustrates what my point is. So let me make sure that you can see it too. Hold on. Okay, you should be able to see it. Okay, so in verse 24, this is after the Valley of the Dry Bones, right? So he's writing to them in Babylon about their restoration. And he gives them the valley of the dry bones and says, this is the whole nation of Israel, so on and so forth, talks about the restoration of Israel. Then he says, my servant David shall be king over them. They shall have one shepherd. They shall follow my ordinances and be careful to observe my statutes. They shall live in the land that I gave to my servant Jacob, in which your ancestors lived. They and their children, and their children's children shall live there forever, and my servant David will be their prince forever. So I'm under the understanding from the actual, like, direct messianic prophecies that when the Messiah comes, they're going to be restored to the land.
I did
You fucking bitch.
Yeah. You don't think that has anything to do with Jesus? Like, I kind of heard Jesus all over that when you're speaking that.
I didn't hear Jesus once. Was David a shepherd?
David was a king. I don't know if he was a shepherd before that.
He was the great shepherding king, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't think that could be like a foreshadowing of Jesus also being king and shepherd?
But he was never a king.
He is.
I'm going to stick my dick in that fucking
he certainly is God. Yeah, for sure.
Well, show me a passage where he's sitting on the throne of King David then.
Where he's sitting on the king, he's sitting on the throne of King David. Why is that necessary?
Because that's what makes you a king. Like I could say, you're welcome to.
Yeah. Okay.
If I said I'm the spiritual president, does it mean I'm the president?
Dick, bitch.
If you're the spiritual president?
Suck my dick, bitch.
Well, I mean, if it was heavenly office, I guess so.
Yeah, I'm the president, y'all.
Suck my fucking dick, bitch.
So Luke 1:32 to 33, he will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord will give him the throne of his father David.
Yeah.
He will reign over Jacob's descendants forever.
Which never happened.
Well, Luke is saying this about Jesus.
He said it will happen, but it didn't happen.
When you mean it didn't happen?
Yeah,
that's the whole New Testament.
Okay, show me the passage where he sat on David's throne and ruled over the people.
I see what you're saying. But that's in the second coming.
Then it didn't happen yet.
Suck my dick.
Right, it didn't happen yet.
Then he didn't fulfill any prophecies. So I could just say that by the same virtue, I'll fulfill the prophecy when I come back then.
Yeah.
God fucking damn
Well,
it.
I guess we'll just have to see who comes back, right?
God.
Right, that's the thing. Like, you can make like when
Here's
you're
your case. Who is more likely? Like, okay, you're both making a claim. You're gonna come back. He's saying he's gonna come back. How do we compare the claims that you guys are making to see who is being honest and who is not?
all you gotta do is wait to see who comes back and does the thing. Right now, Jesus hasn't done it, which means the claim shouldn't be taken seriously.
Yeah, but there were prior fulfillments to the prophecy that you're speaking about, like being born in Bethlehem.
No.
That had to be fulfilled.
That didn't get fulfilled.
So you can't.
That never got fulfilled in Jesus.
What do you mean?
Suck my
You haven't read
fucking
Micah 5.
dick, bitch.
What does it say about the person born in Micah 5?
Micah 5. What does it say about the person?
Because as it turns out, a lot of people were born in Bethlehem. That doesn't make them the fulfillment of it. Right? So what's it say in verse 2 and 3?
Oh, you fucking bitch.
But you, Bethlehem,
Suck my dick, bitch.
Ephrathah? It's a tough one, I know. That's a tough one.
Yeah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come from me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from of old, from ancient times.
Yeah, so Jesus didn't rule over Israel.
Suck my dick, bitch. Suck my dick,
Will be
bitch.
ruler over Israel.
Right.
But that's what we're talking about in Ezekiel 37. He's like the one who sits on the throne,
But he
and the
didn't.
descendants of Jacob.
But he didn't do it. That's the problem with prophecy.
Right,
You
but this is
can't
what it's saying.
fulfill a prophecy that you think he'll fulfill later. It's fulfilled prophecy. If he hasn't done it yet, that means it's not fulfilled.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm saying it's in the process of being fulfilled.
Well, sure.
The
When
prophecy,
he fulfills it, he'll be the Messiah, but he hasn't fulfilled it.
it'll be the ultimate fulfillment of the Messiah. I agree. Yeah.
Sure, but listen, if Jesus comes back and does all the stuff that the Messiah is supposed to do, I'm more than happy to call him Messiah. But until he does, he's not.
At that point, it's going to be too late, though, because he already fulfilled the first half of the prophecy of being a suffering servant.
That's not even a prophecy.
Suck my dick.
So this is the point of agreement we had last time. That it's really not about a suffering servant dying on a cross. It's clearly a metaphor about the nation of Israel.
Right, but that's just an interpretation of difference.
So is yours. You're just interpreting Jesus into it, but my interpretation includes the context of the Old Testament and the context of Isaiah. Yours doesn't.
No, I think it does. I think it just also has a layered meaning to it.
Show me one passage other than Isaiah 53 where the Messiah is going to die.
One passage other than Isaiah 53? Okay, can
Because that was fucking stupid as fuck. Spit.
Can it be from the New Testament or Old?
Obviously the Old Testament, probably the New Testament come after.
Psalm 22.
Psalm 22 is not a prophecy.
But Jesus references it on
Stupid. The stupid machine.
You're saying it's a prophecy because the guy that fulfilled the prophecy says it's a prophecy. I could say that Deuteronomy 18 is actually a false prophecy. I have the same authority that Jesus does.
What do you mean?
We both have the same authority.
Whisper, no.
Oh, sure. I do miracles all the time. I feel literally. So Ruby, I want to make sure you understand what's happening. I want to understand, Ruby. I need you to catch up. Hold on. Okay. So, in order to make these prophecies about Jesus, you're saying, I already believe everything the New Testament says. We'll stop doing that. Pretend the New Testament didn't get written and explain all this eisegesis. Just pretend you're reading the Old Testament and ask yourself, does this prophesy about anything?
Stupid motherfucker.
Is there a prophecy in Psalm 2? Is there a prediction for the future? Or do you only think it's a prophecy because Jesus quoted verse 1?
No, I think... I don't think it reads as a prophecy.
Obviously, because it's not.
I think Revelation can reveal something deeper. I don't think that it had to be
God damn it!
I think that Revelation could obviously reveal a deeper message within what's already there. It doesn't have to be like, oh, just because you got the message once, that's it. You could build upon the basis that you've already made.
So then the revelation is that it's about Simon Bar Kokhba.
Who?
Simon Bar Kokhba. He was killed by the Romans.
And you can't
he was a Messiah, a Jewish leader, and was actually a ruler in Israel for a period of about 4 years.
Try that fucking shit.
So obviously, the suffering servant Simon Bar Kokhba.
Now fuck, God damn it!
But I think you're missing the point.
I'm not missing the point. See, the problem that you have is you're using a circular argument. You're saying these are prophecies because the guy that I already think is God said they're prophecies. But if the prophecies are the thing that substantiate him being special, then you can't start with the fact, well, they're prophecies because my special guy said so. That becomes circular, because I could do the same thing. I could write myself into all these prophecies. I could say, well, they don't look like prophecies, but they are prophecies because I said so. And because you think I'm special, I must be right.
So they have to be explicit prophecies.
Now, fuck
that could be actual prophecies.
Mm-hmm. So...
I
can't think of any, but
right.
Do you know of any explicit prophecies?
You whore!
In that way, could you give me one even not related to Jesus so I could see a comparison between what you're talking about?
Yeah, literally every prophetic book is full of them. We can just go to Zephaniah chapter 2 real quick. Alright, we'll do Zephaniah 1. Sorry. I wish I had my paper Bible with me. I've only got the internet with me right now.
Yeah, that's okay. That's what I got.
Okay, so Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 10.
Come on, you stupid motherfucker.
It says, on that day, says the Lord, a cry will be heard from the fish gate, a wail from the second quarter, a loud crash from the hills, the inhabitants of the mortar wail, so on and so forth. He's saying something will happen. This is clearly a prophecy. Now, there's other forms of prophecies in the Bible as well, where divine information is being told. For example, when David meets with Nathan in 2 Samuel chapter 12, and Nathan convicts him of his sin,
Well, Nathan is technically doing prophecy because Nathan is saying this is information from the Lord, right? So, like any information from the Lord through a prophet, I think can be considered prophetic, but you still know in the time that it is prophetic. Like you don't have to, like hundreds of years later, look back and be like, oh, that actually was prophetic and no one knew it.
Spit.
Okay, but then you're giving credit to the messianic prophecies.
No, I'm not.
It sounded like that's what you were just doing.
No, what I'm saying is that the New Testament is abusing the prophecies or so-called prophecies of the Old Testament. That's all I'm saying. I don't think that these prophecies will ever come true.
God damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if you look at Isaiah 11, right? So Matthew is making an argument that Jesus moved to Nazareth in order to fulfill Isaiah chapter 11, where it says he will be called a Nazarene, which is like a little play on words to branch. But if you just read what is in chapter 11, Jesus didn't do any of that stuff in chapter 11.
Damn it.
It says he's actually going to rule over the people. He's going to judge them. He will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth and the breath of his lips. He's going to kill all the wicked people. Then it talks about world peace. The wolf will lie down with the lamb. The leopard will lie down with the kid. They're going to be, they're not going to learn of war anymore. They're not going to hurt or destroy on my holy mountain. Earth will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord. Like these are very clear passages that are truly prophetic about, the one that's coming from David. And none of them just match Jesus, right? That's why the New Testament has to go to parts of the Hebrew Bible that aren't prophecies to make a case for Jesus.
Holy goddamn.
Okay, what about Zechariah 9:9?
Yeah, that's a quotation from Matthew chapter 21. And I think Zechariah 9:9 suffers from the same problem as Micah 5:2, because if you go to verses 9 and 10 in that chapter, just look at what it says about the person. Rejoice, rejoice greatly, O daughter Zion. Shout aloud, O daughter Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you. Triumphant and victorious is he, humble and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. He will cut off the chariot from Ephraim and the war horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow will be cut off, and he shall command peace to the nations, and his dominion will be from sea to sea, from the river to the ends of the earth. Well, that's clearly referring to an actual king.
Mm-hmm. Right, but Jesus... Okay, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. But I guess the point that I'm making is, if you have so many, you could call them hidden prophecies if you want, where they're not explicit, you have to kind of read them into it. But if you could read him into every single one, then isn't that just something underlying, a greater structure, and not something that you're reading into it?
No, I don't think
if you only fit a couple of them, then I would understand. You're okay, you're picking and choosing. He fits this one, he didn't fit that one. But okay, so that's the point that you're making. The end time prophecies haven't been fulfilled, so he is only fulfilling some of them. But I still don't think.
But he didn't fulfill anything. He didn't fulfill a single prophecy.
Yeah. What do you mean? He came riding on a donkey.
So I rode a donkey.
Okay, but in the context.
But the context is that a king is riding a donkey, and Jesus was not a king.
Jesus was a king.
No, he was not.
He is the King of Kings.
He's not. I'm the King of Kings.
Well, okay, so Paul died for the belief that he was.
Well, so what?
Paul didn't die. Paul didn't die saying, I'm the King of Kings. He died saying Jesus is the King of Kings.
916 people died for Jim Jones being the second coming of the Messiah. That means nothing to me.
Yeah, hang on. I think there's something to unpack here. Why is that different? I guess he didn't have a long-standing legacy, because people could have investigated his claims, and the fact that his claims didn't carry on is kind of proof that he wasn't telling the truth.
Well, Jesus' claims not being true has nothing to do with them carrying on. We see lots of religions where their claims are clearly untrue and they live on, like Muhammad splitting the moon in two. That's ridiculous, and people have believed it ever since Muhammad. Mm-hmm. Right? We have
they believe it, but they believe it in spite of other things they saw. I do believe that Islam there's like a valid reason for it. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't think you believe in things invisible. Otherwise, you believe in God. But I do believe there's something going on there. So I think that's a reason why, even though it's false, there's still followers of it. But then you could just apply the same thing to Christ. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it. The people at the time, like,
God,
it's not like
damn it.
they, like, Jesus was crucified and then they went to like other cities and were
God,
like, yeah, this person died over here. Like, they preached it in the city where he was, where people would have seen him like crucified or risen. People would have been able to check with the information, and they would have been able to disprove him like very easily if he was just making it up.
No, he was gone. How do you disprove somebody existing when you can't find them? Right? So if someone says Jesus rose from the dead and the dude's not around, how do you? That's an unfalsifiable claim.
Well, exactly. Isn't that the problem? They buried Jesus and then they couldn't find him.
I don't believe that to be the case, because we've got lots of stories of people in the ancient world where they just show up missing. Right? We have no idea where he was buried. Nobody knows. You either believe the stories or you don't, and I don't believe the stories. But like, bodies going missing were pretty common in the time period.
Yeah. Like, well, if you give the Bible some credit, then it says that there's a Roman emperor watching the tomb.
Well, there was guards in the Gospel of Matthew.
God damn it!
And then they fell like dead men when at the sight of the angel, and then eventually they woke up and ran off to tell the leader. But I don't believe these narratives, because these narratives keep lying to me about what is in the Hebrew Bible, right? So Christianity is basically one big sharpshooter fallacy. You start with the notion that the New Testament is true, and then you work yourself backwards.
But here's the thing you have to understand, is that at the time they didn't have the full New Testament. It was being like Jesus was revealing it as he was going on, and people still believed him. It's not like they didn't come with the preconception that we have now.
I don't think they believed him. That's why Jesus only had a certain amount of disciples, and he was rejected by the leaders of Israel. And when Paul came around, the Jews rejected Paul too. Paul could only gain ground with the Gentiles, and that's why all of the New Testament is literally written in a Gentile language, almost exclusively to Gentiles.
Well, Paul was accepted by the apostles. I think Acts, is it 3 or 15 he's accepted?
Well, in Acts, he has a meeting with them in Acts chapter 15. But like elsewhere, he's literally having like a fight with Peter over the position of eating with the Gentiles. But again, look at who these churches are. All the churches that Paul planted are Gentile churches. Very few Jewish people among them.
Jesus,
you might make the argument that perhaps the church in Galatia had a Jewish presence, but I don't even know if that's to be the case.
Well, the thing you just mentioned in Acts 15, what they're discussing is, I believe it's circumcision, and then
for who?
Peter, for the Gentiles.
That's right, yeah. Because Paul's followers were Gentiles. Paul's trying to figure out, how do I get these Gentiles grafted in? Because he sees the law as prohibitive, right? Because the Jews didn't believe Paul's message.
Yeah, but this is when we go back to Isaiah 49. You see the light to the Gentiles. How are you going to reach the Gentiles if what you have doesn't fit with them?
Because
try to reconcile it a little bit.
When you read all of Isaiah, the prophet tells you that it's the restoration of Israel that is the light to the Gentiles. It says they will see your vindication and they will run to you. When the Lord restores Israel, that's the light to the Gentiles. That's the signal that says, holy shit, this God is real. Look at what he did for Israel.
No, it says, it is too small a thing for you to be my servant, to restore the tribes of Jacob and bring back the hope of, bring back those of Israel I have kept. I will also make you a light for the Gentiles, that my salvation may reach the ends of the earth.
I'm not quoting 49.
What were you quoting?
56.
Now,
if you read all of, and this is I'd say the biggest issue with the Isaiah apologetics, is all you have to do is read chapter 40 to the end of the book. Read chapter 40 to 66, and it is abundantly clear that the thing that is bringing the nations to Yahweh is the restoration of the people. He says it 100 times. 56 verse 1.
Maintain justice and do what is right, for soon my salvation will come and my deliverance be revealed. Happy is the mortal who does this, the one who holds it fast and keeps the Sabbath, not profaning it, and refrains from it. So the salvation is going to include maintaining the Sabbath. And he goes on about the foreigners joining in. For example, he says in verse 6, the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord to minister to him, to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants, all who keep the Sabbath and do not profane it and hold fast to my covenant, these I will bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be accepted on my altar. All the prophecies about the nations being gathered in Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel includes the law of Moses, and it includes them finding out who Yahweh is through the nation, not through some guy that died.
And so you think the nation of Israel its light has shined or shone on the whole world?
No, that's why I'm telling you. The prophecy did not come true, and it will never come true. That your fundamental starting point is that the prophecy cannot fail, and because it cannot fail, I cannot interpret it the way it was originally written.
I think that the redemption of Israel actually came through Jesus.
I don't think it did. It says that the redemption of Israel is including the rebuilding of the ruined cities and coming back to the land, but that didn't happen.
Would you argue that we're closer to it now than we were before?
No.
No?
In fact, Isaiah tells you it's supposed to be back then. It says, you shall call nations that do not know you, and the nations that do not know you shall run to you, because the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, has glorified you. The idea of...
I'm not denying that it has a double meaning of being about Israel at the time, and then... Because at the time, if you're revealing it, it has to have context to what they're going through. So it can't just be about the future, or else the revelation that they're having is doing nothing for them now. But that doesn't discredit the fact that it could be something also pointing to the future.
Right, so we finally got to a point of agreement. The only way to make this a Christian passage is to apply a double meaning to it. Now, the question I would have is, why in the world would I apply a double meaning to a text when the first meaning within the original context is clear?
Because you just said it doesn't fulfill it.
Exactly,
If it's not fulfilled in the original thing, then obviously that's not the answer.
Yeah, the answer is it's a lie. It's not true. It's never coming true because this God doesn't exist. Yes.
Just saying that. You're saying,
is the case.
Look, you're saying in the original context, it's not fulfilled, so it's not true. I'm saying in the original context, it's not fulfilled, so they have a redeemer. And that's what's gonna they're gonna be redeemed. Yes, bro. The fact that it wasn't fulfilled shows the need for a redeemer, because otherwise they wouldn't need a redeemer if they would have fulfilled it themselves.
They didn't need a redeemer in the first place. What didn't they?
Come on,
this actually is going to come to the biggest difference. We didn't talk about this yet. The biggest difference between the New Testament idea and the Hebrew Bible idea of the afterlife, which is, why do we need redeemed?
God.
Bro, Isaiah 49:7. This is what the Lord says: "The Redeemer and Holy One of Israel
is Yahweh." I know, but why do we need redeemed? Need redeemed
No. They actually apply this to Jesus here, or the servant. This is what the Lord says: "The Redeemer and Holy One of Israel, to him who is despised and abhorred the nation."
The Lord is the Redeemer, Holy One of Israel.
Kings will see you and stand up; princes will see and bow down, because the Lord who is faithful, the Holy One of Israel, who has chosen you.
Yeah, God is the Holy One who's faithful, but he's also not real.
Also applying it to the servant here.
But he's not, though. Again, this goes back to double meaning.
Yeah.
Right? I don't believe in double meanings. I have no reason to believe in double... Like, if there's a double meaning, then how do I know there's not a triple meaning?
Well, you have to see. If it fits, sure.
Well, the Mormons have triple meanings of these prophecies. Did they get it right?
Do they fit in the context?
Yeah. No, you told me the context doesn't matter.
No. I see. Okay, so they fit the description perfectly.
Because, well, first of all, your secondary interpretation does not fit the context, and it certainly doesn't fit the prophecy perfectly. You have to pick and choose one verse here and another verse there, and then ignore the rest of them. So you can't say that your secondary interpretation fits perfectly, because it doesn't. It's just a cherry-picked interpretation. What I'm saying is that the only interpretation we should be holding is that which seems to be in accordance with the context of the original intention of the passage, and not make up secondary interpretations. And I think
as I pointed out earlier, I think the biggest difference that could be, I think, a symmetry breaker for this conversation is just this idea of you have a very different idea of what salvation even means versus what the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible means with salvation, right? So if I ask you, what does salvation mean to you, what would you say?
Yeah, being saved, not going to hell.
From what? Okay, saved from hell. Okay. Can you find me a single verse in the Old Testament that says anyone's going to hell?
I'm not sure the point, but no. I not off by hand, I should say.
Right. So my reading is that the New Testament and people of the New Testament time period, like you can see a little bit of creeping up in the Dead Sea Scrolls, invented this notion of eternal punishment. But it wasn't until you get to the New Testament that you have this crazy idea that people are going to be eternally punished for simply not believing the right thing. According to Jewish theology, the punishment in the afterlife is temporary. It's a maximum of 12 months. And it's for only the truly wicked. Whether or not you believe in the God didn't necessarily make you wicked. So, for example, there's a reason why Jews don't proselytize. It's because they don't believe that God's going to send everybody to hell because they didn't believe in the right God. That's strictly a Christian belief. You won't find that in the Hebrew Bible.
I agree, yeah.
Right? So, when we get to the New Testament and they're saying, well, no, you have to believe all these things, even though they're rather unbelievable and they're going against the context of the book itself. Like, I don't see a reason to believe that and be like, well, you have to or else you can go to hell. Well, I don't believe that hell exists even if I am Jewish. Like, I don't believe that notion of hell.
Mm-hmm. I understand. The way that I think about it is like, sorry, I just had a total brain fart right there.
It's okay, we all do.
Yeah.
It's 10 o'clock, like, I'm going to have some soon, just...
Yeah. Sorry, just bear with me here for a second. So, could you just repeat the last part you were saying?
Yeah, what I'm saying is it's hard for me to... Like, the prophecies in the New Testament themselves are problematic for me, but just like the theological differences between the Old and the New Testament, this idea that if you don't believe the right thing, that God is just going to torture you, either temporarily or for eternity, that's really not a Hebrew scripture belief. Right?
So it's important to them, yeah.
God damn it.
I think that mode of salvation actually makes sense. I understand what you're saying. Your point is that it doesn't really align with what they believed in the past. But I think that mode of salvation is more easily like available to everyone, and that's why they did the transition. I think that, like you said, the Gentiles had a lot of problems with the laws that they had to uphold, and so they weren't too happy with the strictness of it, and I think God basically obliges
to what?
To helping people reach their own salvation, not by their own works, but just by grace.
Right,
through
but
faith.
But my point is, the mode isn't a meaningful distinction to me. I'm saying that the idea that you need salvation in Christianity is essentially that you need saving from God. Like, God's going to do something horrible to you for like the most ridiculous offense.
It's not so much that God's going to do something horrible to you, it's that you're not going to be with God, and that's going to be horrible.
Can God make it not horrible?
So I think God is what is good, so it's like a thing without God could be neutral, maybe, but it couldn't be great, it couldn't even be good.
So God's not capable of creating some place in between heaven and hell? Where you would go, and you weren't tortured?
Yeah.
Okay, so he could do that.
I don't know. To me, I see what you're saying. It would make sense. Like, yeah, you could just like create like a place where it's like, alright, you don't want to hang out with me. You could just go over here, and you don't need to like have something horrible, or it doesn't have to be horrible. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So like, I don't know why God didn't do it that way.
Right, that's kind of the problem. That's where Christian theology falls apart for a lot of people outside of Christianity, is they don't understand this whole hell concept because it's a false dichotomy, right? It's like
that's the thing. I don't even fully understand it as well. Like, if I'm being honest, I just know that my idea of hell is separation from God, and I don't want that.
I get that, and there is a Bible verse that kind of touches on that. It says there's going to be suffering and also separation from God. But the problem for me is that I just don't see why a God that's all loving, all knowing, and all good would explicitly create vessels of wrath to be tormented in the afterlife. That's a nonsensical idea to me, and it really doesn't even line up with the Old Testament. Like, as far as I can tell, this concept of hell that is cooked up in the New Testament was legitimately only done so to give people a reason why they should convert to Christianity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it is a scary idea. I'll give you that. Like, it does strike fear in you, but I think the Bible is also very clear that, like, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So I think in that case, he's setting up this thing. It is scary.
I just got myself another whore.
Not being with God is scary, and it's supposed to be to deter you from not wanting to, be away from him. But maybe, yeah.
If I wanted my child to spend time with me, is the appropriate way? What's better, that I would show myself through acts of endless love and being present, or I should just threaten him?
Okay, well, that's where Christ comes in for us. As a Christian, we believe that Jesus actually, or God, actually came down in the flesh.
But I don't, because he's not here. God could reveal himself right now to every individual on the earth. He wouldn't even break a sweat, right? What he did was sent this illogical human sacrifice, even though in the Hebrew Bible he literally says no man can die for the sins of another. And he says in Jeremiah, he says, I didn't even conceive.
He's not just a man. But yeah.
Well, I mean, the logical problem of the Trinity, I think, is another side topic. But so it's convoluted to say that, well, this guy that was killed by the Romans, that was God, and that's the sign that he loves you. No, bullshit. If he loves us, he should fix bone cancer in babies. He should fix the children that are born blind. Like, he should fix earthquakes and volcanoes and tornadoes.
Yeah, but that's the promise of the new earth, the new heaven.
So what?
So what? Like, you would have nothing to look forward to, and also...
Yeah, I would.
Okay, so... Look, I think about it like this. So, if we were in Adam and Eve's position, we had everything, we were in heaven, or like the garden, whatever, it was still perfect, we would still have eaten from that apple.
So what?
No matter what.
So what?
So, if we were given heaven right away...
What's that got to do with natural disasters?
My point is, if we were given heaven right away, we would take it for granted and we would wonder what it would be like to be without. So God is showing us what it's like to be with sin.
So babies don't go to heaven.
What? No, of course babies go to heaven.
But they can't appreciate heaven. You just said it. You said we have to experience the horrible shit so we can appreciate heaven. But babies, like, if you died in birth, you don't get to experience the horrible shit.
Yeah, we could also have a collective understanding, though.
Okay, so you don't have to experience horrible stuff to enjoy heaven.
And not everyone does. It's like you said, some babies die and still go to heaven.
So then the natural disasters aren't necessary.
I see what you're saying, yeah. They wouldn't be necessary if it's not necessary for all people.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think, in general, as a people, we had to experience it.
Why?
Well, because if your baby's like, well, I want to know what hell is like, you just like, alright, well, that's dumb. We know what it's like. We don't need to go back to that. Like, you have other people, even if you didn't experience it yourself. Yeah, I guess we could just take God's word for it, but Adam didn't take God's word for it, neither did Eve. That's the story. Like, we're kind of rebellious by nature, right?
But it's still missing the point. Rebellious or not, natural disasters don't need to exist for anything.
No, I guess you're right. They don't necessarily need to exist for anything, but again, I don't, like, I'm not God. I don't know why he has natural disasters. We can question about it, obviously. I mean, we are now. I think we probably could have done without, but I think God knows better.
Why?
Why does God know better? Because he knows everything and I don't.
See, a lot of when I was a young apologist, I made a lot of these same statements you're making, and an atheist, a friend of mine, pointed out rightly that all of my arguments start with my belief is already true, and then I work myself backwards. He says start from the opposite end. Start as though you never learned any of this nonsense. And then with every single...
I started there and then I came here.
Well, it sounds like we took different paths. So the problems, if you start at the very beginning and assume that there's no God, there's no good reason to get to a God.
Yeah. Right. Well, when I was younger, I didn't believe in God.
Sure. But what would convince me? What problem does a God solve? What do I need him for?
What do you need God for?
Yeah, what does God explain?
If God is real, it explains where we came from.
But again, it doesn't explain where God came from. Like, I believe that the universe always existed, so we didn't come from anywhere.
Yeah, that's fine. So in your view, it doesn't really make a difference, I guess.
Right, yeah, God doesn't really solve a problem in my worldview, right? In fact, I think it introduces more problems. And I think specifically the biblical God...
I agree with that, because the reason God introduces more problems is because it forces us to face our own shortcomings.
No, it forces me to face the shortcomings of the God explanation, because as soon as you introduce a God, now you've got to introduce attributes of God. You have to introduce reasons why God does certain things, and then you've got to make apologies for the things that he does. So, for example, and I know people who watch me regularly are probably tired of me saying it, like the idea that God would have, and you and I might have talked about it, have 10 of David's wives raped for David's sin is a horrific move. There's no explanation for that.
Oh, yeah. We actually spoke about this. So we spoke about this last time, and I kind of conceded the point, but that punishment was actually suggested by his advisor. It wasn't God who... I know you had said that it was God who did it, because he says he's going to send the punishment, but he allows the punishment to happen.
He says, I'm causing it.
Spit.
I know, but again, understand, last time I gave you the ground, last time I conceded, this time I'll stand my ground. Even in 2 Thessalonians 2, it says God's going to send a powerful delusion. It doesn't mean he is the source of the delusion. Yeah. It just means that he is allowing it to happen.
That's definitely true. If God was just allowing it to happen, he would say, I'm just allowing it to happen, but that's not the case, because in 2 Samuel chapter 12, he says, I will raise up trouble against you, and I will take your wives. He's giving the causation to himself.
But, which one is it
again?
2 Samuel 12.
Don't even think about you fucking fish-eyed fool.
And keep in mind, this is a punishment. Punishments are a reaction to something. Like, punishments don't happen by accident.
Mm-hmm. Right, but you could punish someone and then just allow whatever, if I say, okay, go punish this person how you see fit.
Now, buck up and catch.
Is that on God, whatever that person does?
If God says I'm causing it, yeah.
No, if God says... this punishment is going to come upon you.
I was so hoping you'd fuck up and do that.
I don't see the... isn't it
Kiss
someone
that,
else who, advises him, his advisor tells him to do that or something?
Slut.
So, Absalom consults Ahithophel, and Ahithophel says the thing that you should do is go in and sleep with your father's concubines, and then you'll make yourself odious.
So that wasn't God.
It was. Slut.
Again, God put that in the heart of the man to go say that.
Well, it says, I will raise up trouble against you from within your house, and I will take your wives. He's taking the blame for it, because it's his punishment.
Stupid.
Yeah, so let's go to 2 Thessalonians 2.
Is 2 Thessalonians 2 referring to David's sin?
It's referring to a powerful delusion that God will send, but it's not God that's the source of the delusion.
Did he send it? And he's the source.
He's not the source.
Yeah, you are. If you send it,
he allows. I know the wording.
If you're sending it, you're the one doing it.
The wording implies that he's the one.
Words mean things.
But yeah, of course, the wording implies that. But God is not a deceiver, so how can God say I'm a deceiver and I send a deception?
He literally does.
That's an internal contradiction.
I know, the Bible's full of them. Hundreds of them.
No, well, obviously you have to interpret it in light of the other verses. Otherwise,
I do. And the Bible contradicts itself all over the place.
You're obviously not. If God is sending a powerful delusion and he's not a deceiver, how does that line up?
Because it's a contradiction. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Right.
So again, all of your arguments begin with with the Bible is true. That's the problem. If you don't start your argument with the Bible has to be true, then none of these arguments work.
My dick, bitch.
But you're just saying,
because I could do the same thing with the Quran. I could say everything in the Quran is true because it can't be wrong, and then every time I find a contradiction in the Quran, I can say, well, it can't be a contradiction because then it wouldn't be true. Like, you wouldn't accept that argument, and I'm not going to accept it for the Bible.
No, because you then try to resolve the apparent contradiction, right?
But you can't resolve it. It's just a contradiction. If God says that I'm not the author of confusion and that he's not a deceiver, and then he sends deceiving spirits, then he is literally the author of confusion. But I think the real answer, the one that you should use if you're going to make this argument, is that when it says God is not the author of confusion, you should go back to the original context of that passage, because I don't think it was making a blanket statement that God can never cause confusion. I think people mistake that.
Yeah, but I mean, just in general, God is not called the deceiver. The deceiver is called Satan. I'm sure there's a verse about that.
Yeah, he was a liar and a deceiver according to Jesus in 1 John. But my point is, in 2 Samuel chapter 12, God says, I'm causing the thing to happen. So you can't take God's agency from it.
In 2 Thessalonians 2, he's saying, I will send a powerful delusion.
Then he's the cause of it.
But then you're saying he's an idiot. You're saying that he doesn't know what he said before, where he's saying that Satan...
It happens all the time, yes. Again, your starting point is God can't contradict himself. And my starting point is words mean words.
No, even if I just take a blanket, like if I just read the two verses, okay, so God sends down a powerful delusion, but Satan is a deceiver. How is that apparent contradiction resolved?
Did God send it?
Right. What does that mean, that God sent it?
It means God's the one that sent it. He's the one in control of it. Just like if I said, listen, I'm
granting you that at face value, it's a contradiction. Right?
Yes, I know it's a contradiction on face value. If I said, I sent my army into Iraq, I'm responsible for what the army does. I didn't go there. I didn't pull the trigger. But guess what? I sent the army. So if you're the one sending the thing...
If I send an army to Iraq and then you start murdering unborn babies, you start murdering babies, that's not the person who sent you's fault.
It is. Listen to what I'm saying. If I send an army and the army does army things, I'm in charge. I'm on the hook for what that army did. If you send a lying or a deceiving spirit, and you know that it's a lying and a deceiving spirit, and you know what it's going to do, because remember, God's all-knowing, then you're responsible for it.
Okay, so God is also responsible for all the good we do.
Suck my dick, bitch.
No, I didn't say that. I'm saying in the passage you cited, when God sends the lying or the deceiving spirit, which is quoted in the Old Testament and slightly in the New Testament, when God does that thing, it just means God did it. That's all it means.
At face value, that's what it means.
I know, yeah, that's exactly what that means.
I know, I'm agreeing with you at face value, that's what it means.
That's all there is. All you have is face value.
Contradiction. No, because,
you can't resolve it.
Yeah, okay, I guess you're pretty consistent. Even in Isaiah, like, you take it in the literal context, you take everything, like, very literally, and, like, I appreciate that, because you do kind of need that.
You don't think the Bible is lacking contradictions, do you?
Stupid fucker.
Show me an example. Other than another one other than that one.
Okay. Have you ever read the conversion story of Paul on the road to Damascus?
A little bit, yeah. Sure. He met the risen Christ.
Yeah. So there's some questions about what actually happened, because it says he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? He asked, who are you, Lord? And the reply came, I am Jesus whom you're persecuting. Get up and enter the city, and you will be told what to do when you are there. And then it says, the men who were traveling with him stood speechless because they heard the voice, but saw no one. Okay, so in Acts chapter 9, the men traveling with Paul, they hear a voice, but they don't see who's speaking, and they're confused, right? Okay. Now, in another retelling, in chapter 22, says, these who were with me, this is Paul speaking now, these who were with me saw the light, but did not hear the voice of the one who was speaking. So in this particular case, they see the thing, but they don't hear the thing.
Yeah. Okay, so is it possible that there's a group, like in the group, there's just like half of them saw it and didn't hear, and the other half heard it and didn't see?
It says those who are with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have a lot of like language like that in like
God damn it.
like in the New Testament. When they go to visit the grave, like Matthew says he saw like one person, or Mark says he saw two people, but like even though like they're giving, this is actually used in like an actual evidence case. If you have multiple witnesses, if they're giving the same details of something, then it's less like
now buck up and
less of
take
an
that
honest
knife.
take than if the people have different details of what they saw.
Right, but these are definitive claims. It says, the men who were traveling with him stood speechless. The other one said, those who were traveling with me. Doesn't say some. It says, the people traveling with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm actually... hang on,
God
just pull
damn
this
it.
up. I'm looking into it a little more right now. Just
Keep in mind that the correct answer is that it's a contradiction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's basically saying what I just said now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of things in the Bible that, at face value, seem like a contradiction.
They are a contradiction.
Okay, last game.
That they
When
are a
you
contradiction on face value. I'll even grant that. I'll even grant you that they are a
That means they
contradiction.
contradict.
Go out, I just fucking quit.
On face value, yeah, for sure.
Mark chapter
That
1.
was a shitty move. That was a
Very
shitty
beginning of the
move.
first gospel, Mark makes a blunder. He says, in the beginning of the good news of Jesus Christ, as it is written in the prophet Isaiah,
Now, Buck
see, I'm sending you my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way, the voice of the one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Fortunately, he misremembers. The first part of that quotation doesn't come from Isaiah. It comes from Malachi. It sounds like Isaiah chapter 40, but it's not.
Okay, so wait, in Mark 1 you're saying?
Yeah, Mark chapter 1, verse 2.
Yeah, for sure.
He says it
You're saying?
as in the beginning of the good news of Jesus Christ, as it is written in the prophet Isaiah, see, I'm sending you my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way, the voice of the one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Fortunately, he misremembers. The first part of that quotation doesn't come from Isaiah. It comes from Malachi. It sounds like Isaiah chapter 40, but it's not.
Okay, so wait, in Mark 1 you're saying?
Yeah, Mark chapter 1, verse 2.
Yeah, for sure.
He says it's from Isaiah, but it's not. Also, horizontal stream is crushing it tonight. We got 750 people on the horizontal stream. Horizontal is going to be catching up to vertical stream. We've got 1,000 people on a vertical stream, 750 on horizontal. This is only like our third or fourth horizontal stream. Vertical stream people, don't let horizontal overtake you. Let's see who's going to win this battle by the end of the summer. I want to see who wins. There's a lot of people asking for horizontal streams.
Yeah, it's also in Isaiah.
Oh, sure.
Both of them.
Show me where.
Isaiah 43.
No, chapter 43 is a quotation from Mark chapter 1:3, the voice of the one crying in the wilderness.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, it is written in Isaiah the prophet. Oh, I see. So you're saying he applies both of them to Isaiah?
Yeah, one is from Malachi, and one is
Yeah.
from Isaiah. He says both of them came from Isaiah. They sound similar, but they're not.
But Isaiah still makes reference of voice of one calling
Yeah,
in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord.
but he
I will
doesn't.
send my messenger who will prepare the way before me.
But he doesn't say, "See, I'm sending my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way." That's a quotation from Malachi chapter 3, verse 1.
Oh yeah, literally, it is literally.
Yeah.
I see.
But they sound so similar that Mark just goofed. Mark just thought they were both from Isaiah. He misremembered.
You misremembered. Maybe that's one way to look at it. Yeah, you could always grant like the not so pleasing outcome, like the one that makes him look bad, or the one that actually makes sense and reconciles it. But
Well,
I understand from
how
your
do you-
perspective, you're not going to grant the one that looks good. And
How do you reconcile the fact that he said Isaiah said it when he didn't say it?
Because Isaiah still has those words, but they're paraphrased. They're not in the exact wording.
He doesn't have the wording that is in verse 2. Those words are in Malachi, which is why every single study Bible you've ever owned says those are from Malachi.
Malachi.
He just mashed them up. He gets a lot of stuff wrong.
I agree with what you're saying. He just mashes them up.
Malachi.
But I think Isaiah has the same paraphrased. It's the same context, even if it's not written exactly the same. You're saying he's quoting it from Malachi. I agree, he's quoting it from Malachi, but the meaning is still the same. I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way.
Well, no one's questioning the meaning.
Prepare the way for the Lord.
We're questioning who wrote the text. He's quoting a text, right? He's saying this text that I'm quoting was written by Isaiah, but it wasn't. It was written by Malachi.
Right. But the second part he gets right.
I know. The first part he doesn't. That means he got one thing wrong and one thing right. That's what that means.
Right.
Now, he gets something wrong
Isaiah,
again.
here's what I'm saying though. Isaiah did say that. He just didn't say it in those words.
I know, but who said it in those words? Malachi. Which is why he made the mistake, because they're so similar, his brain was like, he thought it was Isaiah. It's easy to do, anyone can do it. The problem is that God's holy book shouldn't do it. Which brings me to the very next chapter, he does another blunder. In verse 226, talks about David entering the house at Nob of the priest and eating the showbread. It says, entering the house of God when Abiathar was the high priest and ate the bread of presence. But in 1 Samuel 21, Abiathar is not the high priest, it's Ahimelech. He gets the wrong priest.
Stupid fucker.
Sorry, I got a lot of stuff tonight
Stupid
here.
goddamn
You always
motherfucker.
bring up a lot of good points.
You stupid goddamn motherfucker. So glad I got rid of one of those goddamn bishops. I didn't say bishop, I said bishops.
People asking where the horizontal stream is, I apologize. The horizontal stream is at DZ Debates. That's my horizontal channel.
Suck my dick, bitch.
I wasn't sure what I was going to do with channel number 2 right off the rip, but I think the answer is that channel number 2 is obviously going to be nothing but horizontal from this time moving forward, and channel number 1 is going to be the usual stuff. But yeah, go over and watch the debates on, if you want horizontal, on DZ Debates. You'll find a link to that in my main profile if you want, or you can just search it up.
Yeah, so it's saying that in the days of Abiathar the high priest does not mean that Abiathar was the priest at that moment. The Greek phrase in Mark is, I don't know what that says, but in the time of Abiathar the high priest, which just means, it could mean like the area associated with him.
But he was never the high priest when David ate the showbread.
The other one says, Abiathar was present at the time and later became high priest.
Actually,
he was never high priest?
He couldn't have been present at the time. He was alive at the time. He couldn't have been present at the time because shortly after that, all of Ahimelech's household gets murdered except for Abiathar. He's the only one that escapes. Also, I would point out that the translation of "in the days of Abiathar" is spurious. That's not in the Greek text. People are adding that to the text. It's only in English, not in Greek.
Yeah, it says in the time of. And it says it's a Greek phrase.
The Greek phrase "epi" doesn't mean in the days of or in the time of. That's why my translation just says when.
Oh, when Abiathar the high priest?
Right.
Stupid motherfucker.
Okay. Anyway, I won't take up too much more of your time. I feel like we had a pretty good talk today. It was fun again.
Yeah, I think we have fun. Ruby, you're a good guy, and I know it's hard listening to the stuff coming out of my mouth as a believer, and you take it pretty well.
I get it, bro. Like, I don't think you're I don't think you're coming at it from a malicious way. I think you're just very literal. You're very, me, I'm more of like a symbolic guy, so like all these double meanings, for me, it's like I see them everywhere, even without like the preconditioning of like Christian beliefs, because I didn't have that growing up. But just like upon doing my research now, I start seeing that. But like, I think you're very literal, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You want the evidence to be straightforward, and that, I agree, man. For someone like, we all have different ways of like taking in information, and if it's not convincing for you in this way, then I don't know. There's not really any way to convince you, but I think we still have fun conversations anyway, and it's always fun to learn, man. So I want to thank you for letting me on the platform. Thank you, everyone in the chat, and yeah, that's it, man. Thanks.
Yeah, Big W, Ruby. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Come on, you stupid motherfucker.
Long before Jesus was born in Bethlehem, long before he walked the dusty streets of Galilee, he already existed, but not in the way the world came to know him. The Bible reveals that there is a version of Jesus that few dare to imagine, and when this version was revealed to a common man, the impact was so profound that he fell to the ground as though dead. We are talking about the most terrifying, glorious, and revealing vision in all of Scripture, recorded in the book of Revelation. It is not merely a vision of hope. It is a direct confrontation with the divinity of Jesus in his purest and most eternal form. John, the apostle who walked with Christ, saw with his own eyes the true Jesus. The one who once ate with him by the sea now appeared wrapped in incomparable glory, and there was no longer any ordinary human appearance there. In chapter 1 of the book of Revelation, John takes us to the setting where everything happens. He is exiled on the island of Patmos on an ordinary day of worship, when suddenly he hears a powerful voice behind him. It was not a familiar voice. It was like the sound of a trumpet piercing the silence. He turns around, and what he sees is beyond all rational description. And among the 7 lampstands was someone like a son of man, dressed in a robe reaching down to his feet, and with a golden sash around his chest. This is the first image John attempts to describe. But the more he describes, the more evident it becomes that he is before something that defies his understanding. His hair was white like wool, as white as snow. His eyes like blazing fire. His feet were like bronze glowing in a furnace, and his voice like the sound of rushing waters. Out of his mouth came a sharp double-edged sword, and his face was like the sun shining in all its brilliance. These words are recorded in Revelation chapter 1, verses 13 through 16. What John is seeing is not a symbol, it is a revelation. It is Jesus in his glorified form as he truly is from all eternity. It is the pre-existent Christ, the same who was with God before the creation of the world, now revealed in majesty and glory, without veils, without limits, without hidden humanity. John, who had known the tender touch of Christ in life, is now exposed to his cosmic authority, to his exalted nature, to the God that he is. The impact is immediate. John writes, "When I saw him, I fell at his feet as though dead." This is in verse 17. It was not mere admiration, it was holy fear. The presence of glorified Jesus was unbearable for any human being without the aid of grace. Jesus then touches John and says, "Do not be afraid. I am the first and the last and the living one. I was dead, and behold, I am alive forever and ever. And I hold the keys of death and Hades." These words reveal not only who Jesus is, but what he governs. He is the Lord of time, the beginning and the end of all things. The one who died and conquered death. The one who holds the keys to humanity's eternal destiny. There is no room for doubt. What John saw was the manifestation of God himself, the one whom many still insist on seeing merely as a historical man, a teacher or prophet, now presents himself with all the attributes of divinity. This scene is not a symbolic illustration or a prophetic metaphor. It is the official presentation of Jesus as he truly is. No longer the suffering servant, but the glorious King, the light that shines in the midst of darkness, the high priest who intercedes and the judge who rules. When John saw this vision, he was not merely witnessing the future, but being transported to the spiritual reality that has always existed. What had been hidden from human eyes for centuries was now revealed, not to frighten, but to awaken. And if this is the glorified appearance of Jesus, the question that naturally echoes is, why did he not reveal himself this way before? Why did the world know him as a simple carpenter, and not as the Lord of the heavens? What led this eternal being to hide behind the fragile skin of humanity? The majesty he hid on earth, the one John saw in glory, with eyes like fire, and a voice like the sound of rushing waters, is the same who walked among men in an almost anonymous manner. The difference between the vision recorded in the book of Revelation and the man who lived in Nazareth is as profound as it is revealing. The contrast does not lie in a change of identity, but in a deliberate choice. Majesty was not lost, it was hidden, and it was out of love.